Fighting with the swords, gone. Playing with the brain, on. Let's play Giraffe Chess Hattrick League Season 3.
International Giraffe Chess Federation presents Hattrick League Season 3 between 10 Proddatur teams. Hello everyone, welcome to India's new 68 squared Giraffe Chess Academy Proddatur, and welcome to the live telecast of no draws, no resigns, only win or lose in just 70 moves Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 2024 Season 3. Let us watch Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 26th match between Proddatur Tigers team versus Proddatur Marshals team. Each team consists of 3 players. Whoever team all outs opponent all 3 players is the match winners. Let us see the toss at the center of the court.
What will select? Head is the call from Proddatur Marshals. What is that? Heads. Toss won by the Proddatur Marshals. What will select? Proddatur Marshals won the toss and elected to play first game.
And in toss, Proddatur Marshals team, they won the toss and elected to play on black side. And here is the both teams lineup for Proddatur Tigers team. Gautam Ishwar is the opener and Sai Akiltej is the second player, and Abhinay comes to play as third player. And for Proddatur Marshals team, Darvish is the opener and Sai Charan is the second player, and Surya comes to play as third player. Now, let us watch first game of the match between Proddatur Tigers team opening player Gautam Ishwar versus Proddatur Marshals team opening player Darvish Reddy. Let us see among these 2 players who will win this game and who will do hat-trick and who will be the hat-trick hero of today's great match. Let us watch. Let us move on to the court. One-time hat-trick hero, best scholar awardee, Proddatur Tigers team opening player Gautam Ishwar is ready to play on right side. Let us see on other side of the court. One-time hat-trick hero, best scholar awardee, Proddatur Marshals team opening player Darvish Reddy is ready to play.
Now we can see both players are ready to start. Game 1 of the match. Black side player Darnish is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 1 started.
Pawn to e4, pawn to e5, pawn capture, pawn at d5, queen capture, pawn at d5, knight to c3, queen to d8, giraffe to e3, knight to c6, giraffe to h4, pawn to g5, giraffe to e3, giraffe to d6, giraffe capture giraffe at d6, queen capture giraffe at d6, giraffe to d3, knight to b8, knight to b5, queen to d7, giraffe to e0, queen to c6, giraffe to f3, queen to d7, pawn to g3, pawn to a6, bishop to h3, queen to d8, knight to c3, bishop capture bishop at h3, knight capture bishop at h3, knight to c6, giraffe to e0, giraffe to e6, knight to e4, knight to f6, knight capture pawn at g5, pawn to h6, knight to f3, giraffe capture knight at f3, giraffe capture giraffe at f3, queen to d7, knight to g1, queen to d5, pawn to c4, queen to e4 and check to white king, king to d0, knight to e5, pawn to d3, queen capture giraffe at f3, knight capture queen at f3, knight to c6, queen to e2, bishop to g7, queen to c2, knight to b4, queen to b3, knight to c6, queen capture pawn at b7, rook to b8, queen capture knight at c6, knight to d7, queen capture pawn at c7, bishop to e5, knight capture bishop at e5, rook to d8, rook to e1, knight capture knight at e5, rook capture knight at e5, pawn to f6, queen capture pawn at e7 and check to black king, king to d9, queen to f7 and check to black king, rook to e8, rook capture rook at e8, rook capture rook at e8, bishop to d2, king to d8, rook to c1, rook to e7, queen to d5 and check to blocking, rook to d7, queen to a5 and check to blocking, king to e8, rook to e1 and check to blocking, king to d9, queen to e9 and check to blocking, king to c8, rook to e8 and check to blocking, king to b7, king to b7, queen to a5, rook to c7, rook to e6, rook to c6, rook to e7 and check to blocking, king to c8, pawn to d4, rook to d6, queen to c7 and check to blocking, king to d9, queen capture rook at d6 and check to blocking, king to c8, queen to c7 and check to blocking, king to d9, rook to d7 and check to blocking, king to e8,
Now Gautamishwar
queen to
immediately
d8
moved
and
his
check to
queen
blocking,
to
and it's a
d8
checkmate.
and said check to blocking. It is not only check, it is a checkmate win to Gautamishwar. What is superb checkmate win to Gautamishwar. Darnish out. Proddatur Marshals team opening player Darnish out. And with this win, Gautamishwar, he won the first game and still need 2 more wins to do hat-trick to become hat-trick hero of today's great match.
Now, let us watch second game of the match between Proddatur Marshals team second player Sai Charan Nayak versus Proddatur Tigers team opening player Gautamishwar. Let us see among these two players who will win this game and who will do hat-trick and who will be the hat-trick hero of today's great match. Among these two players, Gautamishwar already won the first game and now playing for winning second game. Let us watch what will happen. Let us move on to the court. One-time hat-trick hero, best scholar awardee, Proddatur Tigers team opening player Gautamishwar is ready to play on black side. Let us see on other side of the court. Young scholar awardee Proddatur Marshals team second player Sai Charan Nayak is ready to play on white side.
Now we can see both players are ready to start game 2 of the match. Black side player Gautamishwar is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 2 started.
Pawn to e4, pawn to e5, bishop to c4, giraffe to e6, giraffe to d3, pawn to b5, bishop to b3, pawn to a5, pawn to c3, giraffe captured giraffe at d4, bishop to c2, giraffe captured pawn at g2, queen to f3, queen to g5, pawn to h4, queen to g6, bishop to e0, giraffe to h5, bishop to b3, giraffe to e6, pawn to d4, giraffe capture queen at f3, pawn capture pawn at e5, queen capture knight at g1 and check to white king, rook capture queen at g1, giraffe to d6, pawn capture giraffe at d6, bishop capture pawn at d6, king to e2, giraffe to g6, knight to d2, bishop to a6, king to d1, pawn to b4, pawn capture pawn at b4, pawn capture pawn at b4, knight to c4, bishop to c5, rook to e1, bishop captured pawn at f2, rook to e2, bishop captured pawn at h4, giraffe to e3, bishop to g5, giraffe to h2, bishop to c8, giraffe captured bishop at g5, pawn to d6, giraffe captured rook at h8, bishop to g4, king to d2, giraffe to f3, rook to g2, giraffe captured knight at c4, bishop captured giraffe at c4, rook captured pawn at a2, rook captured rook at a2, knight to f1, rook to a8, king to d7, illegal, king to d7, rook capture knight at d8, knight capture pawn at e4 and check to white king, king to d3, bishop to f3, rook to f2, knight to c5 and check to white king, king to d4, knight to e6 and check to white king, bishop captured knight at e6 and check to black king, king captured bishop at e6, rook captured bishop at f3, pawn to f6, rook to e3 and check to black king, king to f5, king to d5, king to f4, king to c6, king to g4, king to d7, king to f5, king to d8, king to g6.
Now we can see Sai Chiranak is just one step away to win by
King to
crowning. Yes, he
D9
moved his king to d9 and won the game by crowning. What a superb crowning win to Sai Chiranak. Gautam Ishwar out. Proddatur Tigers team, Gautam Ishwar second player out. And with this win, Sai Charan, he won the first game. And big disappointment to Gautam Ishwar, he lost the hat-trick chance. Whereas Sai Charan Nayak, he got the hat-trick chance.
Now, let us watch third game of the match between Proddatur Tigers team second player Sai Akhil Tej versus Proddatur Marshals team second player Sai Charan Nayak. Let us see among these two players who will win this game and who will do hat-trick and who will be the hat-trick hero of today's great match. Among these two players, Sai Charan Nayak already won the first game and now playing for winning second game. Let us see what will happen. Let us move on to the court. Young Scholar awardee Proddatur Tigers team second player Sai Akhil Tej is ready to play on white side. Let us see on other side of the court. Young Scholar awardee Proddatur Marshals team second player Sai Charan Nayak is ready to play on black side.
Now we can see both players are ready to start game 3 of the match. Black side player Sai Charan Nayak is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 3 started.
Pawn to e4, pawn to e5, knight to f3, queen to f6, giraffe to e3, queen to d8, bishop to c4, pawn to c6, knight capture pawn at e5, pawn to c5, pawn capture pawn at c5, pawn capture pawn at d5, bishop to d3, giraffe to d6, pawn to c4, giraffe capture giraffe at e3, pawn capture pawn at d5, queen captured pawn at d5, pawn capture giraffe at e3, queen capture knight at e5, pawn to b4, bishop to e7, queen to a4 and check to black king, bishop to d7, queen to b3, knight to f6, knight to a3, castling at king side, bishop to b2, queen to g5, rook to f1, knight to g4, pawn to g3, knight capture pawn at h2, rook to g1, bishop to f6, bishop capture bishop at f6, queen capture bishop at f6, rook to h1, knight to g4, bishop to b5, bishop capture bishop at b5, knight capture bishop at b5, knight to a6, rook to c1, giraffe to e6, knight to d4, rook to c8, rook capture rook at c8, rook capture rook at c8, giraffe to d3, giraffe capture giraffe at d3, queen capture giraffe at d3, rook to c1 and check to white king, king to e2, rook capture rook at h1, queen to c3, pawn to h6, king to d3, queen to g6 and check to white king, king to c4, knight to e5 and check to white king, king to d5, rook to h5, knight to b5, knight to f3, king to c4, queen to g4 and check to white king, knight to d4, knight capture knight at d4, queen capture knight at d4, queen capture queen at d4 and check to white king, king capture queen at d4, king to h7, pawn to e4, pawn to e5, pawn to f6, king to d5, rook capture pawn at e5 and check to white king, king to e6 illegal, king to d6, rook to e8, king to d7, rook to a8, pawn to d4, king to g4, pawn to d5, king to f5, pawn to d6, king to e4, king to e7, king to e3, pawn to d7, king to e2, pawn to d8, pawn equal to queen, king to e1,
Now we can see Sai
king to
Charan
e8,
is just one step away
king
to
to
win by
e0,
crowning. Yes,
crowning
he
win.
moved his king to e0 and won the game by crowning. What a superb crowning win to Sai Charan Nayak. Sai Akil out. Proddatur Tigers team second player Sai Akil out. And Sai Charan Nayak with this win, he won continuously 2 games and still need one more win to do hat-trick and become hat-trick hero of today's great match.
Now, let us watch fourth game of the match between Proddatur Tigers team last player Abhinay versus Proddatur Marshals team second player Sai Charan Nayak. Let us see who will win this game. If Sai Charan Nayak wins this game, it will be hat-trick to the Sai Charan Nayak and he will be the hat-trick hero of today's great match and his Proddatur Marshals team won the match. If Abhinay wins this game, match will be tied with 2-all games and go for 5th game for result. Let us move on to the court. Best Scholar awardee Proddatur Tigers team last player Abhinay is ready to play on black side. Let us see on other side of the court. Young Scholar awardee Proddatur Marshals team second player Sai Charan Nayak is ready to play on white side.
Now we can see both players are ready to start. Game 4 of the match. Black side player Abhinay is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 4 started.
Pawn to d4, giraffe to f6, pawn to e4, pawn to c5, pawn to c3, pawn capture pawn at d4, pawn capture pawn at d4, giraffe to c7, pawn to a3, pawn to g6, knight to c3, bishop to g7, knight to b5, giraffe to f6, queen to c2, pawn to a6, pawn to e5, queen to a5 and check to white king. Bishop to d2, queen capture knight at b5, pawn capture giraffe at f6, bishop capture pawn at f6, knight to f3, queen to c6, giraffe to d3, queen capture queen at c2, pawn to b4, queen to b2, bishop to c1, queen to b2, bishop to e0, queen to d5, giraffe to g4, queen to e6 and check to white king, giraffe to e3, queen capture giraffe at g4, castling at king side, bishop capture pawn at d4, rook to d1, bishop capture rook at a1, bishop to b2, bishop capture bishop at b2, giraffe capture bishop at b2, queen to e6, rook to e1, queen to a2, giraffe to e3, queen capture pawn at a3, giraffe to c5 illegal, giraffe to d0, queen capture giraffe at d0, bishop to b3, pawn to a5, rook to d1, queen to a3, bishop to c2, queen capture pawn at b4, pawn to h3, pawn to a4, knight to e1, pawn to a3, knight to d3, queen to b6, knight to c1, pawn to a2, knight captured pawn at a2, rook captured knight at a2, rook to c1, rook captured bishop at c2, rook captured rook at c2, queen to b1 and check to white king, king to h2, queen capture rook at c2, king to g3, pawn to f5, king to h4, queen capture pawn at f2 and check to white king, king to g6, queen capture pawn at g2 and check to white king, king to h4, pawn to g5 and check to white king, king to h5, queen capture pawn at h3 and check to white king, king capture pawn at g5, queen to h6 and check to white king, king capture pawn at f5, pawn to d5, king to e5, queen to e6 and check to white king, king to d4, knight to c6 and check to white king, king to c5, queen to d6 and check to white king, king to b6, king to d7, king to b5, knight to d4 and check to white king, king to a4, pawn to b5 and check to white king, king to a5, knight to c6 and check to white king, king to b6, knight to f6, king capture pawn at b5, knight to d4 and check to white king, king to a4, giraffe to c6, king to a5, queen to c5 and check to white king, king to a4,
Now
giraffe
Abhinay
to
immediately
d3 and
jumped
check to
giraffe
white king
to
and it's a
d3 and
checkmate.
said check to white king. It is not only check, it is a checkmate win to Abhinay. What is superb checkmate win to Abhinay. Sai Charan Nayak out. Proddatur Marshals team second player Sai Charan Nayak out. A great disappointment for Sai Charan Nayak. He lost the hat-trick chance. What a superb win by the Abhinay.
Let us watch most important match winning deciding fifth game of the match between Proddatur Tigers team last player Abhinay versus Proddatur Marshals team last player Surya. So far, both teams won 2 games. Now, whoever team player wins this fifth game, they are the match winners. Let us watch what will happen. Let us move on to the court. Best Scholar awardee Proddatur Tigers team last player Abhinay is ready to play on white side. Let us see on other side of the court. Best Scholar awardee Proddatur Marshals team last player Surya is ready to play on black side.
Now we can see both players are ready to start game 5 of the match. Black side player Surya is ready to hit the clock. Yes, he hit the clock. Game 5 started.
Pawn to e4, knight to c6, pawn to h4, knight to f6, pawn to f3, pawn to e6, pawn to d3, pawn to d5, pawn capture pawn at d5, pawn capture pawn at d5, pawn to a4, queen to d6, queen to e2, queen to e7, queen capture queen at e7 and check to blacking, king capture queen at e7, bishop to e2, knight to d4, bishop to d1, pawn to h6, pawn to c3, knight to c6, pawn to c4, pawn capture pawn at c4, pawn capture pawn at c4, knight to e5, bishop to d2, knight capture pawn at c4, bishop to b4 and check to blacking, king to d8, bishop capture bishop at f8, rook capture bishop at f8, knight to c3, knight capture pawn at b2, bishop to b3, bishop to e6, bishop capture bishop at e6, giraffe capture bishop at e6, pawn to g4, giraffe to d6, pawn to g5, knight to h5, pawn capture pawn at h6, pawn capture pawn at h6, knight to d1, knight to g3, rook to h2, knight capture knight at d1, rook capture knight at d1, king to d7, giraffe to e3, rook to rook to e8, giraffe, capture giraffe at d6, pawn capture giraffe at d6, king to d2, king to c6, king to c3, pawn to b5, rook to c2, pawn capture pawn at a4, king to b4, king to d7, king capture pawn at a4, rook to b8, king to a3, king to e7, knight to e2, king to f6, knight capture knight at g3, king to e5, rook to e2 and check to black king, king to f4, knight to e4, rook to b6, rook to d4, rook to d8, knight capture pawn at d6, king to g3, knight to e4 and check to black king, king capture pawn at h4, rook to g2, king to h3, giraffe to d3, giraffe capture giraffe at d3, rook to d2, giraffe to g2, knight to f2, knight to e0, King to
Now
h1.
Abhinay immediately moved
Rook
his
to
rook
h4 and check to blacking and
set
it's a
check to
checkmate.
blacking. It is not only check, it is a checkmate win to Abhinay. Surya out. Proddatur Marshals team last player Surya out, and with this out Proddatur Marshals team all out. Whereas Surya, he won the crucial game of match winning fifth game and makes his team won the match.
Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 2024 Season 3. Let us see match number 26, Proddatur Tigers versus Proddatur Marshals match scoreboard. In game 1, Proddatur Tigers player Gautam Ishwar outs Proddatur Marshals player Dharnish by checkmate in 53 moves. In game 2, Proddatur Marshals player Sai Charan outs Proddatur Tigers player Gautam Ishwar by crowning in 39 moves. In game 3, again Proddatur Marshals player Sai Charan outs Proddatur Tigers player Sai Akhil by crowning in 49 moves. In game 4, Proddatur Tigers player Abhinay outs Proddatur Marshals player Sai Charan by checkmate in 55 moves. And Sai Charan lost great hat-trick chance. And in game 5, Proddatur Tigers player Abhinay outs Proddatur Marshals player Surya by checkmate in 46 moves. And finally, here is the result. Proddatur Tigers team won the match by all outs Proddatur Marshals team in 5 games. And here is the points table of Giraffe Chess Hattrick League 2024 Season 3. Let us see what are the top 4 teams after finishing off 26 matches. Proddatur Chirta's team with 10 points stands on first position. Proddatur Kings team with 8 points stands on second position. Proddatur Spartans team with 8 points stands on third position. Proddatur Jaguars team with 6 points stands on fourth position. Each team, after playing 9 matches, final points are calculated for top 4 positions. Top 4 teams only qualify for the final playoffs.